There are so many different ways that anime can draw us in, but what about when anime is used to draw us into something else entirely? There's a certain weird affection that we have for anime commercials and promo videos. Just a few weeks ago, everyone was saying that McDonald's had saved anime with their insidious recruitment ad. And who can forget the time that Mamoru Hosoda used horrifying panda monsters to sell Louis Vuitton bags to impressionable young girls? Or Madhouse's stark and depressing cautionary tale about a woman whose entire life is shaped and molded by the marketing team at Disneyland Tokyo. What's crazy is that some of these commercial ideas get so popular that they're turned into full-blown shows. Hell, Gainax's last desperate death rattle was a 13-episode commercial for Subaru cars. But wish upon the product placement is hardly the first time Gainax has made a promotional anime. In fact, before Royal Space Force, The Wings of Hanaemize was even a glint in Hiroyuki Yamaga's eye, he and the other founding members of Gainax cut their teeth producing promotional shorts for Japan's national sci-fi convention, Daicon. These shorts have huge historical significance, and not just as the origin point of Evangelion and Fooly Cooly. In order to recoup their production costs, Gainax, then named Daicon Film, sold video copies of the animations, effectively making them the first ever OVAs. Technically speaking, Daicon IV could also be considered as one of the first AMVs. The short they produced for Daicon III doesn't exactly hold up today. It feels like what it is, a cheap, rough, padded piece of fan animation, though it's still miles beyond what you'd expect from three guys in a basement. But their second showing for Daicon IV is still quite impressive, even by big studio standards, and even though it was made by just 12 people. And it put the studio on the map. At the behest of my generous and commendably patient patron Elijah Lawson, it's that second short that I'm going to be taking a look at today. Both shorts are fundamentally celebrations of otaku culture in much the same vein as early viral videos like The Ultimate Showdown. With no respect for licensing, they toss familiar characters into a knockdown, drag-out brawl to see who comes out alive. The big difference is that the Daicon shorts have much higher production values as well as an actual storyline, albeit one that's pretty fast and loose. Daicon IV kicks things off by tightening up and revamping the plot of the Daicon III short. A little girl is given a glass of water, carries it through a barrage of attacks from various fan icons, and delivers it to a shriveled Daicon radish, which grows into a giant spaceship and carries her off to the stars. The cool thing about this truncated version is that it gives a great way to chart how much the team's skills improved between the projects by comparing similar shots directly. Take the establishing shot of the spaceship touching down, for example. In the original short, it's choppy and abrupt. The ship and the land beneath it are very simple and kinda bulky. They look more like plastic toys than a real ship in a real environment. Jump forward 2 years though, and the same shot is executed much more artfully. The scenery rolls by smoothly underneath the ship, which has much more detailed paneling, highlights, and shading that makes it look like it's made of metal instead of plastic. The shot feels much slower and more relaxed, despite taking the exact same amount of time. The smoother animation helps a great deal. It's much easier to quickly process what you're seeing here. In general, the visual storytelling of this first part has been tightened up considerably. The animators managed to cover the same story beats with fewer overall shots. In part, this is because the bigger budget allows them to make more layered, imaginative shots, but it's also a matter of them having grown as filmmakers. They understand that their audience doesn't necessarily need to see every second of a scene transition to get what's going on. The story is condensed very efficiently from 5 minutes to 1.5, and besides a few character references and a lot of running loops, we don't actually lose much. It is a little disappointing not to get updated appeal shots for every reference in the original short, but the trade-off is this badass scene with every cool thing the animators could think of firing on the girl at once. These beam and explosion effects are classic Gainax through and through. Even in the early days, these guys really knew how to sell a powerful explosion as well as the very specific sensation of something flying super fast and low to the ground. For the most part, the continuity in this opening segment is really strong, but the shot where she uses her weaponized ruler to attack an alien Baltan from Ultraman feels incomplete. She cuts it and there's a big burst of energy to show the impact, but the shot of the aftermath is just missing. I'm not sure if it was cut for time or budgetary reasons, but not even seeing a still shot of it destroyed is kinda disappointing. It's one of a few mistakes that mark this as an amateur film. With that said, the shot that follows, with an Itano circus of mini rockets shooting out of the girl's backpack to strike down various iconic spaceships, is super impressive. Gainax has always had a particular way of doing this shot, with the missiles zipping around at odd angles that looks really, really cool. Ichiro Itano was actually involved in the animation of the Daicon IV short, so it's likely that this segment, along with several similar shots later, particularly the one with 7 swords spiraling into the sky leaving rainbow smoke trails behind them, was either the result of his involvement or inspired by it. The destruction shots that follow the barrage are a little short, but very impressive, a real step up from the original short. Again, we see those thick, poppy explosions that the studio has clung to and refined over the years. The intro ends on the same note as the original, with the girl using her cup of water to turn a shriveled daikon radish into a now gorgeous-looking spaceship. The girl's appeal shot in her captain's uniform is a lot cuter now that she's not an indistinct blob. Aside from the obvious improvement in visuals, there's something about this particular shot that really grabs me. The detailed interior with heavy shading used to create depth, the ornate design of the girl's uniform coupled with the way that the floor opens up to let her through, it gives me a very strong hunch that this shot is the work of Hideaki Anno. I can't quite put it into words, but something about it really smacks of his aesthetic sensibilities. Gainax was never shy about letting its creators put their stamp on their work, but this being a somewhat unstructured fan production, they really went nuts with it here. The difference in their styles makes the production feel a little inconsistent, but to me that's offset by its value as a time capsule, preserving the DNA of these great animators' styles. In a gorgeous cut, the rocket jets off into the stars, and we're left staring into the inky void of space. After the date fades, we're left to stare into the darkness and listen to the engines roar, but then new music starts to kick up, and the stars swim into view. On the screen, we see the lyrics of Prologue from ELO's 9th album, Time. In the background, the outline of the Daicon ship flies by, imposed against the stars. As the song transitions into Twilight from the same album, we see one last shot of the girl fade away. Then the music swells, building up until, with a drum kick, we're introduced to her once again. Only now she's grown up and confidently rocking a sexy bunny girl costume. This is a new, more advanced Daicon. Following some dynamic poses, we see a flurry of action that's honestly a little hard for me to analyze. Not because it's particularly complicated, the bunny girl fights off waves of attackers from various sci-fi properties such as a number of Xeon mobile suits, more alien Baltons and Metrons, and various creatures from the Godzilla franchise. No, it's hard to analyze because the action is so kick-ass and works so perfectly with the music that it kind of pains me to pause it. This fight animation is surprisingly smooth, and the choreography is really strong for just a few seconds of animation. The attackers come in from different angles and are dealt with in different ways to create visual variety, but the sequence of events flows logically from one hit to the next. It builds up to this kick-ass lightsaber duel with Darth Vader, and the lightsaber battle looks good. Easily better than any of the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Yoda bullshit from the prequels. I love how this shot is framed like a samurai movie, with stormtroopers sitting Seiza style and cheering on Vader. In a strange but awesome looking shot, the girl is attacked by a giant xenomorph wielding the Discovery 1 from 2001: A Space Odyssey, which sends shockwaves through the ground and knocks her down. While she's vulnerable, Dynorobo from the Dynaman Sentai series tries to crush her, but she uses some kind of super strength to throw it off. Afterward, we see perhaps the most historically important thing in this whole short film. As the bunny girl flexes in triumph, she shows us history's first Gainax bounce. This is the shot that changed the whole medium. Out of the sky appears the Stormbringer, a magical black sword that plays a prominent role in the fantasy work of Michael Moorcock. The bunny girl hops on top of it and begins surfing through the sky. After a brief cutaway in which we see Nazo from the classic tokusatsu series Moonlight Mask, as well as Yoda performing Rakugo for Chewie and C-3PO, alright, we jump back to the sword surfing. The bunny girl soars over the hexagonal landscape of Jack L. Chalker's Well World, accompanied by a squadron of Ultra Hawk 1s from Ultra 7. Seemingly now miniatures, these jets do battle with a VF-1 Valkyrie in front of the Super Dimension Fortress Macross, which has its arms replaced with the space battleship Yamato and Harlock's Arcadia for some reason. It's impressive how authentic the renditions of these disparate characters and machines are. The shot of the Valkyrie pulling out its beam saber looks damn good, and without the cafe in the background, you could almost mistake it as a shot from a real episode. If I were to list every individual reference in the next few scenes that the bunny girl flies through, we'd probably be here for an hour, so let's just say that in 3 brief segments, Daicon Film manages to portray the 3 pillars of nerddom: fantasy, comic books, and sci-fi. They cram in references to everything you could think of, from Narnia, Batman, and Star Wars to Pern, Thunderbirds, and the effects work of Ray Harryhausen. The only really underwhelming part of this montage is the superhero bit. It's cool how they capture the style of 80s DC and Marvel with their bombastic effects and onomatopoeia, but the lineup of heroes that we see here is super basic and obvious. It seems like the animators didn't have quite the same depth of knowledge and passion for American comics as they did for fantasy and sci-fi, but considering that, it was good of them to acknowledge the importance of the medium anyway. She crests over the wave of American influence, and we see her fly against a collage of faces from various homegrown Japanese franchises, mainly tokusatsu and anime. Characters ranging from Kamen Rider and Mazinger to Nausicaa and Cutie Honey are imposed against the sky, which I guess by standard rules of anime storytelling means they all must be dead. I think this montage very effectively captures the conflicted attitudes of nascent otaku culture. There's clearly a deep affection for the sci-fi and fantasy works of the West, but in a way it competes with otaku pride in and love for original Japanese works. The bunny girl finally dismounts her sword, leading into one humdinger of a money shot. The Stormbringer splits into 7, and the girl lands and looks up to see the 7 swords cut gorgeous paths across the blue sky. The animation for this whole segment is pretty close to breathtaking. The girl lands with perfectly calculated weight, and the swords streaking across the sky are so detailed and fluid. But with that said, it's got nothing on what's to come. Just as the swords make impact, we see another brief interlude of iconic toy spaceships being mashed together, perhaps a tongue-in-cheek nod to the childish arguments about which fictional character is the best that have been ever present in fandom since time immemorial. But these playfully destructive outbursts are contrasted with something truly beautiful. The next 40 seconds of painstakingly detailed animation was animated entirely by Hideaki Anno. No, the real one this time, because he's a goddamn crazy person. A beautiful explosion rips apart a sci-fi metropolis, which is engulfed rapidly in an expanding sea of cherry blossom petals, and the animation on this is so real looking that it seems like it could leap out of the screen at you. In particular, this horizontal tracking shot where buildings zip by in near perfect 3D parallax is mind-blowing. It might not seem that impressive to viewers spoiled by an overabundance of CGI, but this wasn't made with a computer. Anno managed to create a fully tangible 3D space, even if only for a moment, using only a sequence of drawings. To this day, it remains one of the single most impressive effects shots in anime history, though the shots still to come are almost equally beautiful. The city is replaced by a field of flowers, and the metal plating on the ground is uprooted, giving way to the gorgeous scenery of a natural mountain range forming at impossible speeds. Slowly, the entire barren wasteland of the planet is engulfed in greenery. On board her ship, the bunny girl stares out at the dancing petals, and then she unleashes a beam that blankets the land in newly grown trees. And this shot, too, is incredible. The way that the evergreens rapidly shoot up is inventive and effortlessly sells as real something that we should know is totally impossible. This, when you get down to it, is the real magic of animation. Also, there's something very satisfying about the curvature of this beam as it passes by us. I don't know what it is exactly, it just looks sexy. Next, we see another quick cut, this time of Japanese icons like Doraemon and the Sun Vulcan Sentai team in shows of camaraderie. And lastly, we get an impressively huge panning crowd shot of basically every character you can think of, all standing together in unity. The sun crests over the horizon, and in one last gorgeous bit of animation, we pull out through the entire solar system as it spins into place to form the Daicon logo, which we linger on for a few moments as ELO plays us out. though that last bit isn't entirely great, at least in context. See, as unbelievably kick-ass as Twilight is, and as well as it suits the action of the short, the unfortunate reality is that this song is the reason that we'll never see a proper HD release of Daicon IV. See, Daicon Film didn't bother to actually license this song, and while its use of so many copyrighted characters in such short bursts falls into a fair use gray area, its music definitely doesn't. And the Playboy bunny design of the main character caused some problems too. The shorts were sold on video and 8mm film reels at conventions, but outside of those unofficial releases, the highest quality release of the film was a laserdisc included with an art book for the animations. Since the shorts will never be released on DVD or Blu-ray, this laserdisc is a highly sought-after collector's item, and it serves as the source of the remastered footage you're seeing here. Daicon IV has a long legacy, though. The acclaimed two-channel inspired J-drama Densha Otoko, which my ex-girlfriend would not shut up about, actually did license Twilight for its opening, which serves as a beautiful, copyright-safe homage to the original short. Cassette Girl, the 35th entry in Japan Animator Expo, the web series that gave us Me Me Me, and which is run by Hideaki Anno's Studio Kara, is built around an action segment that more or less recreates the short's iconic sword surfing sequence. And of course, Gainax has referenced them plenty of times, tossing Haruko into a direct parody of the same sword surfing bit in episode 5 of Fooly Cooly, and even sitting down to just straight up explain to the audience why the money shot from Daicon IV is so impressive in Otaku no Video. I think there's a good reason that this obscure, expensive, hard-to-find short has become such a cultural touchstone for anime fans, and it doesn't just owe to the almost impossibly spectacular production values. I mean, yes, the character animation, the effects animation, and the environmental art is incredible, and on top of it looking great, it syncs up perfectly with its theme, which happens to be one of the all-time great classic rock songs. But if you get past that, there's a very important message at the heart of this short, which I think speaks to something vital in the otaku community. Over the course of Daicon IV, all of the kick-ass fighting gives way to breathtaking beauty and a powerful image of nerd solidarity. It posits that when otaku put aside their bickering over minutia and come together, they can accomplish just about anything. And the existence of the film itself is a testament to that. This impressive, landmark piece of animation was the work of 12 geeks toiling away in a small studio rented from a textile union, and was only finished the morning that it premiered at the convention. It is the product of an ethos that to this day continues to generate amazing works of art around the world. You can look at the internet and find countless people squabbling over meaningless bullshit, but you can also see countless examples of beautiful things made by fans purely for the sake of love. Daicon IV appeals to and embodies that creative drive. That idea is something that Gainax would return to, naturally, since it's sort of the foundational principle of their entire company, and it's explored in much greater depth in their weird OVA mockumentary Otaku no Video. If you want to celebrate classic otaku culture some more, check out my video breaking down the legacy of the original Dragon Ball Z opening. Or if you're looking for a testament to the human spirit in general, you might enjoy the openings of Space Brothers a little bit more. And if you want to delve into what makes your favorite anime great every week from here on out, hit that subscribe button to catch everything that Mother's Basement releases, and follow me on Twitter at G0FFThu for regular updates about everything I do, think, make, whatever. Thank you for watching, and thank you especially if you're one of the rad as fuck people who supports me on Patreon. This episode literally couldn't have happened without you guys supporting me. And special thanks again to Elijah for bankrolling this video and turning me on to this incredible short in the first place. As always, this is Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.